Good evening, and welcome to the special called board meeting on the FY25 budget adoption and millage rate. I will confirm that this meeting was, notice was sent out, and it was. If we would all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll now accept a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Okay. We're going to move on. We don't have any announcements.
Take a vote.
Yes, yes. Vote on the agenda. I'm so sorry, guys. All in favor? Thank you.
In favor.
Thank you, David. And for the audience, we do have board members that are online as well. I'll now accept a motion to approve the consent agenda. We have none.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we will now hear from finance.
The first agenda item we have is for a budget amendment for a district-wide FF&D budget transfer. Staff requests the following budget transfer to provide funding for school replacement furniture, fixtures, and equipment purchases. The school furniture replacement program aims to provide funding for the replacement of old and unserviceable furniture that would be used by schools due to available school per pupil allotments. The program will also address the seat requirements of the schools and the need for more flexibility, multiple layouts, and appropriateness for furniture that can be moved and organized for greater collaboration of the learners, such as face-to-face group arrangements. Thirdly, there is a need for wider platforms for computer tables and laptops usage and safety. In the chart, you have a budget transfer using funds in a current budget account of $3.5 million. We're going to transfer those funds to Fund 307 for the purchase of furniture. Thus, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the budget amendment shown above in the amount of $3,500,000 for school replacement furniture, FF&E purchases.
Accept a motion. Moved, seconded. Any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, David.
Item 6.02, another budget amendment for strategic funding school grant, the Way Forward 2026 strategic plan. Staff requests the following budget transfer to provide funding for one-time expenditures to support district schools and their work toward strategic priorities. The summary of the proposed budget adjustment is below. We're transferring $4,610,424 from vacant salaries and benefits to a contribution to other funds, creating a budget in Fund 584, Special Revenue Funds, in the amount of $4,610,424. Thus, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the budget amendment shown above in the amount of $4,610,424 to support the one-year strategic priority funding for district schools.
It's been moved. Second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, please.
Thank you. I just want to say that I am very excited to support this transfer. I think this is a great example of us being able to provide funding directly to our schools so that they can utilize the funds in the way that best meets their needs to be able to move forward as a district within our strategic plan. Obviously, we do have parameters set up around that and accountability that goes with it, but I'm very excited to see these funds being allocated directly to our schools.
Anyone else? All in favor? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
The next item is 6.03, teacher on loan interfund transfer. Staff requests the following budget transfer to provide funding to support a teacher on loan staffing initiative. The teacher on loan position provides additional staffing support for schools and is expected to fill vacancies in their respective content area. The teacher on loan is assigned by the ESS. The district substitute teacher provider who recruits substitute employees to fill vacancies on an as-needed basis. The funding is provided to support this staffing initiative for 1 year and will create a teacher on loan position for each middle and high school. The summary of the proposed budget adjustment is as follows. Again, moving $1,684,578 from a teacher salary and benefits account to a contribution account, creating a budget in Fund 584, special revenue in the amount of $1,684,578. I do want to point out that we currently have teacher loan positions already in the middle schools. That's why they're not included on this agenda item. Thus, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the budget amendment shown above in the amount of $1,684,578 for the one-year teacher on loan initiative.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Hall.
Dr. Watts, would the credentials of this person be solely on ESS, or would the principal have some input into who is selected to be that person at their school?
It's principal discretion. Of course, we're encouraging our principals to look to some of the areas that are hard to fill, special ed, math, science, but it is principal discretion.
Okay, so ESS isn't just sending someone to their door?
They get to hire and place the person that they want to
Okay,
place.
all right, thank you.
Any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you, David.
The next item is 6.04, adoption of the fiscal year 2025 budget for all funds.
And before we deliberate on that topic, I have a few comments that I would like to make. I would like to thank each board member for your engagement and feedback in the process over the last few months as we've looked to develop our budget. I would like to extend deep gratitude to our constituents who have come out and shared feedback and their perspectives about the budget development process. Your input has been invaluable to me as a new superintendent, getting to know the system and getting to know the county as a whole. And it's also been invaluable to the school district as we look to develop a budget that balances both the interest of our students, staff, and the community. Despite differing opinions, I believe that there is a shared commitment that we all have to the future of our students and the success of our schools. Developing a budget for the students that we serve here in Savannah, Chatham County Schools is much like serving and navigating the iron triangle of good, fast, and cheap. Fast, everyone wants the result that they want now. Everyone wants the outcome. They wanted the outcomes yesterday. We have to work very hard to accelerate the outcomes of our students. So that's the fast part. The good, we all want good programs. We want good compensation. We want a good transportation system. We want good buildings. And we want to do all of that with excellence. But the third entity in that triangle is cheap. We want to do all of that with the least amount of dollars possible. As many of you know, it is almost impossible to do all three of those things well. It took us years to get to where we are today with the educational outcomes of our students and our budgeting traditions, and we cannot make all of these changes overnight. And you all know the saying, you get what you pay for. So it's very difficult to get cheap and good at the same time as well. Many of you have discussed the outcomes in our school district, and in many ways, I share that we are not where we want to be. We have not reached where we want to be aspirationally for our students. So I share your discontent. I share your urgency in how we need to move. But I will say there is not one single example across this country where I have seen a district cut funds and see an improvement of student achievement at the same time. It just simply does not happen. I do realize I'm a tax-paying citizen here as well, so I do realize the importance of being fiscally responsible. Given this is my first year here in the district as a superintendent, I have attempted to make some cost-saving changes. We are not facing a funding cliff like many school districts across the country. We are not laying off our teachers like many places are across the country. We have made cuts in our central office. However, I am clear that this is not enough. We can do better, and I want to be a good steward of taxpayers' dollars. There is a commitment that you have from me to continue to look at ways to reduce the budget in a way that does not compromise the efficiency of our district and the effectiveness in how we serve the students. To symbolize my commitment to chipping away at this, I want everyone to know that if there is a COLA increase for employees this year, I will not be taking the pay raise for our employees that the rest of our employees will take this year. I will, and again, I know that is a very small amount of money when we're looking at the budget as a whole, but it is to symbolize the importance of being fiscally responsive and symbolize my commitment to chipping away at expenses. To further emphasize my commitment, and after careful consideration, I am coming to the board today to revise my millage rate recommendation to reflect a 0.15 rollback. I believe this rollback will not compromise the effectiveness of how we carry out our strategic plan objectives or sustain operations for the district. And I am making this recommendation to include using fund balance to cover the recurring expenses of the district. I see this rollback as a shared sacrifice, one that balances the interests of our taxpayers without compromising what our students and what our employees need and deserve. At a time in which there is a strong need for a workforce to support the future vitality of Savannah, Chatham County and the surrounding region, we have to be very careful about our decisions as we talk about investments in public education. There is a strong desire to meet the workforce demands and dramatically improve student learning. But our educators cannot be the ones to ask to do more with less. Other government entities also have taxing power. Our education system should be the last place we are demanding a millage rate rollback from. The very fabric of public education across the country is as vulnerable as it has ever been. Funding decisions have to breathe life and hope into our students and our teachers, not constrict and stifle opportunities for maximum potential to be reached. Education is often said to be a top priority. We all say that, how important education is. And if that is true, our words have to match our actions and have to match our investment. It's my hope today that we all have the mindset, the courage, and the will to do what is right for the 36,000 students that we serve. Thank you.
In accordance with the law and policy, staff presents the fiscal year 2025 budget for all funds. This budget consists of 5 components: the general fund budget, the general obligation debt budget, special revenue funds budget, capital projects funds budget, and other funds budget. The final budget under consideration reflects a 0.15 mil decrease for a total combined millage of 17.481 mills, 17.481 mills for maintenance and operations, and 0 mil for general obligation bond debt. The general fund budget. The fiscal year 2025 general fund budgeted expenditures and other uses total $622,079,666. This budget will receive $410,767,953 in revenues from local revenue, $201,771,518 in state revenues, and $1.3 million in federal revenues, and a contribution or use of fund balance of $8,240,195. The estimated ad valorem tax millage rate for calendar year 2024 is 17.481. The ad valorem tax revenues were calculated using an estimated adjusted net maintenance and operation digest of $22,411,234,631 for calendar year 2024. General obligation debt budget. The fiscal year 2025 general obligation debt budgeted expenses total $270,000. Special revenue funds budget. The fiscal year 2025 special revenue funds budgeted expenditures, and other uses total $127,915,955. The following budgets are included as part of the special revenue funds, and those budgets funds are listed in the chart below. Other funds budget. The fiscal year 2025 other funds budgeted expenditures total $3,867,042. The following budgets are included as part of other funds, which includes debt service, workers' compensation, unemployment, and the employee dental plan. Capital projects. The fiscal year 2025 capital projects funds budgeted expenditures total $131 million. This budget is based upon estimated costs to be incurred between July 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2025 for approved projects. Thus, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education finally adopt the following budgets. Fiscal year 2025 general fund budget for $622,079,666. FY 2025 general obligation debt budget in the amount of $0. FY 2025 special revenue funds budgets in the amount of $915,955. FY 2025 other funds budgets in the amount of $3,867,042, and the FY 25 capital projects funds budget in the amount of $131 million.
I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded.
So moved.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. We got you, David. Discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to go first if that's okay.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I would first like to thank the district and Dr. Watts for the budget they have presented. I would like to remind the public that we have had a finance committee meeting every month this year. We will continue to have finance committee meetings, and that is where the public can engage more in the process that built this budget. The additions to this budget, the pay raises for teachers or counselors, pay raises for bus drivers to try to help create a path forward to our transportation issue. So this budget has been the most transparent that I have been a part of with my time on the board. And the district and under Dr. Watts' leadership has taken each one of the areas of the budget that we are making increases in and linked it to our strategic plan. We are trying to retain and recruit the best teachers we can to make the changes in our education system in Chatham County that each one of you spoke on tonight. That's what we're attempting to do. Our teachers are not paid well when we look across the district, but we are doing our best to get there. Everything our district does supports students. Everything our district does supports students because the entire mission of the district is to educate. So I would like to ask everyone to please attend finance meetings. Please engage in the finance and budget process, whether you can make it or not. Email us when you see the options that are being presented and tell us that you don't believe that this one part of the budget actually supports students, so that we as board members can go to the district and say, please help me educate the public on why this position exists. I am most appreciative of Dr. Watts and the district for working tirelessly at looking at how we can make a small rollback. It is not a full rollback, but a small rollback, even after her only being here 1 year. The easy thing to do would have been keeping the millage the same and just going forward. But she was open, she and the district were open to listening and making a substantial cut in our fund balance. And I believe this coming year, Dr. Watts and the district are going to be able to make even more moves because she understands both our school system, but also our county and its citizens better. So she will be more agile in making decisions that will remove or lessen the administrative bloat that is thought of in the community. And I believe she's already doing that. And we'll continue to evaluate everything that we're doing. I believe there are areas in academic affairs that we could look at and programs that she has already presented with us saying we need to sunset this because it's not doing what we want it to do. She has made literacy our North Star, and we have spent money to make sure that teachers have now been educated in a proper way to teach literacy. Unfortunately, higher ed is a little bit behind us, so we're still going to have to teach some new graduates how to properly teach literacy to our children. So I commend the district, I commend Dr. Watts, and I also commend each one of my board members for attending every single finance committee meeting. Not only the members of the finance committee that are board members, but every single board member. And I honestly believe that we were the most engaged in the budget process. And I believe that most of us feel that we know what is in this budget and why we are approving it. So I just wanted to say thank you for the work we've done. There is work that will be done, and I know it will be done better in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Hoskins-Brown.
Dr. Brinkman did not leave very much, and for that I am appreciative. I just want to say thank you to him for his leadership in this activity. The work of leading the Finance Committee is not lessened by starting earlier. It's still just as heavy a lift every single month, and I want to acknowledge his leadership in that work. I also want to acknowledge the staff for their responsiveness to every concern, question, tweak that could be made to Dr. Watts and the district leadership in being responsive and providing the information that we needed to make a confident decision. And I also want to thank my colleagues for being so collaborative and really talking one with another to identify the values that were important to everyone and to make sure that this budget was as close as possible to being representative of our values. And we're still emerging in that, because certainly we would like to invest a lot more in things that we know will push the needle for our young people. But I just want to acknowledge that this was a collaborative process in which there was a lot of listening from the staff to the board, from the community to the board, and from the superintendent to the community. Thank you.
Ms. Hall.
I would like to mention two things I have envisioned over the next 3-4 years that I'm hoping we as a team can see brought into fruition. One would be the expansion of early childhood experiences so that we intentionally make sure, for instance, that all of our second graders get to Oatland Island, as an example. All of our third graders get to Massey Heritage. All of our fourth graders get to the marshes at Savannah State, so that we intentionally make sure that all of our students, as part of their curriculum, get that experience, if we make it intentional. The other thing I envision, we speak so much about literacy in terms of reading. I want us to look at math. For these kids going forward, math as important as reading is, so that if we could hire highly qualified math teachers in addition to who we have in, say, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, so that by the time our children are rising 8th graders, at least 30% of them are going into algebra at 8th grade. That changes the whole trajectory of their high school experience and whether or not they go on for higher learning after high school, if they're in that 8th grade algebra class. I really think we can do it. And because I believe in us that we can do it, I plan to vote to uphold your recommendation, Dr. Watts.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm sorry, Ms. Kowalski.
I just, Mr. Jackson, have a question that I think might be helpful to explore. So we've talked a number of times in our finance meetings and throughout the course of all these discussions about the way in which our state allocation does not fully cover our staffing, and how we make it a priority to ensure that all of our district employees are treated equitably when it comes to their compensation. Can you explain a little bit about how the budget reflects the cost of living allocation that is coming to the state employees, and how we are addressing that in our local budget?
Yes, ma'am. As we look at the cost of living increase, those of you that are familiar with earlier on this year, the governor announced that he wanted to give certified teachers an additional $2,500 pay increase. As a district, we were looking at supporting that, but making sure that's accessible and available for all employees, not just certified teachers that the state pays for. So as we look at our group of employees, not only for the COLA, but also for health insurance costs that have gone up, our portion that the district pays locally is close to about 60% of those increased costs. the state pays that 40%. Of that 60% represents the employees that the district picks up as our tab to support education in our school district. The state doesn't pay the full salary for the teachers that we do get funding for. So we pick up the difference for some of the benefits that of those staff personnel that the state includes in our QBE formula. But overall, we're picking up about 60% of the tab of those state-imposed increases.
Thank you. I think that's a really important fact for us to remember because so much of our budget does go to support our staff.
Correct.
And we cannot serve our students and our scholars if we don't have the staff to do it. We have spent a lot of time talking about the teacher burnout report that I'm very grateful that Dr. Watts, it started before Dr. Watts got here, but she's been very receptive and has moved those recommendations forward. We need to continue to move those recommendations forward. We have a compensation study that is about to conclude. We don't know the results, but we do know anecdotally that we have lost some people because of compensation.
Right.
And we are in an extremely competitive market. You just talked about how the state allocation of our funding has gone down in many areas and not just to state health insurance. These are still mandates that we are required to cover locally. We are seeing the end of the ESSER funding
Correct.
in September, and I certainly commend our staff for doing an excellent job and being very wise stewards of those resources and for positioning the district in a way to be able to not face that fiscal cliff that the superintendent talked about earlier, because to do so would be disastrous for our district and for our students. I'm very grateful for that. However, just because those dollars are ending, the needs are not. We know that the needs that were probably under the surface when the pandemic hit were there, but they really were exacerbated through the pandemic, and we are continuing to deal with the challenges of those times. And part of our budget includes the addition of 28 counselors that will help to better serve our students. We are bolstering our wellness for our teachers, staff, and students, because we understand that in order to perform well as a teacher or a student, you have to be healthy mentally, physically, and socially. The superintendent is not even at the conclusion of her first year, almost. But all of these reasons, to me, are really important things to think about. I'm also a taxpayer, I'm a homeowner, I'm a property owner, and understand and appreciate the feedback that we have received from the citizens. We are first and foremost responsible to our children, and we absolutely have to be wise stewards of public dollars. But I think with that comes first and foremost the commitment to our students, and we are making positive strides. We have a long way to go, and I'm confident we are going to get there, and I'm looking forward to continuing this journey with Dr. Watts to see where we go. For where we are now, I appreciate the 0.5 mil rollback, but I agree that we have to place first and foremost in our consideration being able to meet the needs of this district and this community, and so I support the budget that has been presented by the superintendent. Thank you.
Are we just going to go in order?
We can. Mr. Smith?
I will work to be very expeditious in my remarks. I would like to echo the sentiments of all of my colleagues thus far. I would like to also commend the superintendent as well as the cabinet on this wonderful, wonderful proposal. I believe that it is vitally important that we continue to put our students first. That is the main priority that we have as board members and that each and every educator brings to the table on the regular basis. I am glad that we could accept or we could receive this proposal, for this proposal does not compromise the things that we want to give to our students. So I can get behind this, and I would like to thank Dr. Watts for listening to the board. I would like to thank the board for listening to the community as we strive to serve our district with the spirit of excellence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
First, I want to say thank you to the staff and the superintendent, and also to Dr. Brinkman for the year's worth of work for putting this together. This is my 9th budget vote, and it's going to be my last. I've only voted in favor of 2 budgets, and this is not going to be one of them. I said from the get-go that if we can't figure out how to get a full rollback, that I can't support it. Being the one guy up here that's actually in real estate and deals with this on a day in and day out basis, I see the effect of it. Like I said last year, in property management, the landlords pass it on to the tenants. Every single one of our landlords passed on the cost to our tenants. And I'm with pretty good confidence that that will happen again this year. We talk about fair housing around here. This is how we can, affordable housing. This is how we can do it, through taxes. It's the one thing that we can control to have more affordable housing here in Chatham County. The stuff that we need to fund, yes, we absolutely do need to be able to fund it. However, I do know that there are other ways. Somebody smarter than I am can figure that out, of how to reallocate the funds, do more tweaking, do more chipping away. It's nothing against the superintendent or staff. Y'all do a yeoman's work. However, once again, I cannot support this budget.
Dr. Howard Hall.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to thank Dr. Brinkman for spearheading our budget committee, our finance committee, the superintendent, and her staff for working on this budget. One of our top priorities is to retain and recruit. So what I would like to see for the next coming school year is actually to improve in the area of filling vacancies. We know that we earn vacancies, and in some cases we create, not vacancies, but those positions. We earn positions, and in some cases we create positions based on a needs assessment. And we have been challenged. It's been a significant challenge, not only in Chatham County, not only in Georgia, but across America in filling positions. But I think that we need to really work on an aggressive plan to fill these positions, being that we have vacancies, and I believe it's at 27 million at the end of the year still in vacancies. Now, when there's vacancies, we do reallocate, or those funds can go in reserve. So it's not a misuse of funding, but I would like to for us to really work on trying to fill those vacancies. We've worked hard on this budget. There's a lot of involvement within here, and I just like to commend once again everyone for their work, and let's really work on retaining, as Dr. Brinkman mentioned, to retain and recruit, because we have too many vacancies, in my opinion. 27 million is a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Moss?
Yes. Yes.
It's Mr. Cashmarket.
Oh, Sean, please speak.
Apologies. So I've been listening since the 6 o'clock meeting, and I heard the comments from our speakers. I guess I had some technological issues and could not speak, but for the record, I voted yes on all of the previous agenda items. In terms of this budget, I'm not going to repeat, but will echo comments from my fellow board members. This was a thoughtful, transparent process. There's a trade-off of and a balancing of interests that occurred. Politics is the art of the possible, to paraphrase somebody famous who said that. I would prefer a larger reduction in the millage rate. There are not 5 votes for that. So I will support this smaller than I would wish rollback. And so I will support the proposal from the superintendent.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the people who attended our hearings. I'd like to thank the people who attended our hearings who are still here. We do hear you. You can shake your head. We do hear you. We may not always agree, but I'm going to tell you something. For the last year, I've worked with these people sitting up here. And the reason we're sitting up here is how it was set up. It has nothing to do with us wanting to look royal. These people spend an abundant amount of time making these decisions. Time away from their businesses, because let me tell you, what these people are paid, you can't live on. So, I want to thank my fellow board members. We don't always agree all the time. But I think that is the strength of this board. We don't always agree, but we listen to each other. I'm going to go back to something that Mr. Kachmar said. Would I like a larger cut in the millage? Absolutely. Here's the deal. And I say this to anyone who wants to run for office. If you can't count to 5, you're not going to get anything done. I commend the superintendent for budging. Here's another fact. If we were to do a full rollback, we would exhaust most of our balance, our fund balance. Let me explain to you what happens when you exhaust your fund balance. If you exhaust your fund balance, by law, we're supposed to have at least 3 months. We would go below 3 months. That is being fiscally irresponsible. Now, going forward, are there opportunities for us to look at where we're spending and do cuts? Absolutely. And in the coming year, we're going to have some hard conversations about some of those areas. But for right now, here's another fact. Chatham County saw more than 4 suicides last year. 2 of those were public school students. When Dr. Watts added, and by the way, the state does not allocate enough money for counselors. When Dr. Watts came to us and said, we're adding 28 counselors, I'm sorry, you can't put money on that. We are going to do right by our kids. And yes, we will be fiscally responsible. And please, please understand that these people are doing this for the right reason. And I'm doing it for the right reason. And please stop threatening us. One of the things that I hear from students all the time, why can't people be kind? And I want you to remember the children are watching. And what they saw today was not kindness. There's a way to disagree and still be kind. And I know I'm sounding like the biggest sap known to man, but I've worked with children for 20 years. And that's the one thing they taught me. They taught me the importance of kindness. No, we don't have to agree. And some of you will walk out of here and go, I'll never vote for that man again. But understand, I am doing this for the right reason. And these people sitting up here are doing this for the right reason. And Dr. Watts is doing this for the right reason. And this staff is doing it for the right reason. We had almost a year of finance committee meetings. Not one person from the public attended any of those meetings. So I invite you, the schedule for finance committee will be coming out soon, and I invite you to attend those meetings. Because as I say all the time, we want to hear from you. I was thrilled that we had so many people at these hearings. It was wonderful. I wish I had my bet with Ms. Hall still, because I'd be getting a free breakfast right now. But we do want to hear from you. But we have to make hard decisions. And these people were elected to be leaders. And when you lead, sometimes you're not going to get what you want. I think, what was the phrase we learned today? You can be right, or you can be effective. I believe this vote is being effective.
Do right and be right.
Do right and be right. So I will be supporting this. And I do want you to stay tuned for what's coming next, because there will be some more discussion and some hard decisions that we'll be making in the future. But for right now, this is my vote. Okay. Anyone else? All right, let's vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. And opposed? Thank you very much. Next.
Item 6.05, calendar year 2024, fiscal year 2025, final recommended tax millage levy. Under Georgia law, the Board of Public Education for the City of Savannah and the County of Chatham is a recommending authority that exercises the power to cause the levying authority, the Chatham County Commission, to levy property taxes to carry out the purposes of Board of Education. In accordance with law and policy, it is necessary for the board to adopt the recommended calendar year 2024 millage rates for both maintenance and operations and general obligation bond indebtedness for their corresponding levies on taxable property. The calendar year 2024 millage rates used in the projection of revenues for the fiscal year 2025 budget are 17.481 mills for maintenance and operation, a 0.5 decrease in mill, and 0 mill for general obligation debt, for a combined millage rate of 17.481 mills. The millage rate for maintenance and operations is not in compliance with the rollback rate calculated by the tax assessors per OCGA 48-5-32.1, and as a result, the district held 3 public hearings as required by Georgia law. Final adoption of these millage rates is required at this time to meet statutory timelines for millage adoption. Accordingly, staff proposes the millage rates be adopted. Thus, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Public Education for the City of Savannah and the County of Chatham, as provided by law, does hereby recommend to Chatham County Commissioners and ex officio judges thereof that there be levied upon the dollar of all taxable property in Chatham County, Georgia, a general fund tax of 17.481 mills, a general obligation bond debt tax of 0 mil, and an aggregate millage rate of 17.481 mills in the year of 2024 for the support and maintenance of public education. Direct staff to advertise such recommended millage rates as required by law, and direct the Secretary of the Board to transmit a certified copy of this resolution to the Chatham County Board of Commissioners.
I'll accept a motion. Been moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay. Yes, Dr. Howard Hall.
Yes, I'd just like to say that due to the significant increase in property taxes, I did have reservations regarding keeping the millage the same. Because as aforementioned in a previous meeting, I voiced my concerns about that. However, I'm pleased to know that we have decided to make a percentage, because upon that request during that board meeting, I did request some type of percentage of a rollback. And it might not be the percentage that most people will agree with, but we are heading into the right direction, in my opinion. We don't want to find ourselves in a deficit. However, I did believe that we could possibly have some type of a rollback. So since we revisited, since the superintendent listened, and since all of us collaborated, I am voting yes for this rollback, since it is not going to remain the same. If we had kept it the same, I was going to vote no, because there would not have been a rollback at all. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, there being none. All in favor? David?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. All opposed? Thank you very much. I will now accept a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and seconded. Sir, we're not having comments.
Can I have just one comment? This is the school. We have foster lifelong learning, and my comment is we mispronounce words, all right, such as important instead of important. And one of the biggest words that we have is education. Everybody uses it as education. We gotta
Sir, thank you.
start teaching
We're
these
adjourned.
people proper words.
We're adjourned.